Hey everyone, new year, new look. Yeah, some of you saw on the socials and such. I'm playing with changing the office around. I have brought back the illustrious furry wall. I missed it very much. And I am playing with, just different things. I've got phones that you can. People have been shocked on meetings occasionally. They'll just be talking to me through my phone, and I'll lean back and I'll pick up one of these phones, and they'll just work because, again, the phones are all tied in. The Dorking system, I haven't wired that up yet, but I got the phone line run through the fur. Speaking of phones, though, you may be noticing I'm missing a phone. Yeah, the payphone's not there. What the hell happened to the Fortress? You may be aware if you've hung out with me at Tour Camp or other places, there was a lock fest that the payphone showed up. That has mostly been a decorative prop. I acquired it, basically for a hacker event where I just needed set dressing. So I got it on the cheap because it wasn't working. But my friend Ginger, she looked at it with me. She's like, "Oh, well, you need these pieces, and this is what is clearly missing on the inside. And if you connect them up, it should work." And I connected them up, and it didn't. So I wanted to fix that because now that I've got a whole wall of phones, why not add one more? And I am not an expert in payphones. I'm not an expert in most things on the phone other than being on mine too much. But I have friends who are experts in phones. So I went and saw them.
Hey, Dave.
Hi.
What are we doing today?
Well, we're at my favorite place in the world. And in addition to getting to see you, which is kind of my main benefit for being here, this is a payphone that many people have seen behind me in various guises. But at the moment, it serves as little more than a weighted blanket when I sleep because I bought it originally just as set dressing on like a hacker challenge game, and it was not working, and I knew that when I bought it. But then I thought, I like things that work more. So my very good friend Ginger, she worked with me. She's like, well, let's crack it open and show me. And she's like, oh yeah, you're missing parts. You're missing like a coin doozolator and a hoppy something and a connectifier. Yeah. She's like, buy these parts and stick them in and they couple together and it should work. And I bought the parts, I stuck them in, I coupled together, but it doesn't yet. So yes, it looks very complete inside, but we tried, like Astrid put tone on the line and no make sound.
Phones. Yeah, so what we're going to try to do today is get this guy working. The only thing we know now is what you just said. There's no dial tone. And that can mean a number of things. But we've got our tools. I've got my handy-dandy multi-screwdriver. We've got the coin service manual bookmarked to the page for this phone. I've got a pokey stick and a voltmeter there. So I think that's
All right.
pretty much all we should need.
Well, let's get the raccoons and spiders out of it first, and we'll see what's happening inside, I suppose. There we go. Aha!
Okay.
I have taken apart my share of phones before. There we are. It's coming.
Yes.
Or it is at least breathing heavy.
Aha!
Parts.
We have Z inside. So this is basically all the electronics that makes it so that you can talk. That your voice can be heard on this thing. And then on the other half, you have the coin doozolator. Right? That's the very important coin handling part with the eject mechanism. And then this is where your telephone line connects here. Let's take a look in here and see what's going on. We've got our line wire here. We've got tip and ring, assuming this is a good wire, which it probably is.
Yeah, I think Astrid put it on there, so I trust her.
All right, it's time for me to consult the manual. The nice thing is the coin chute doesn't matter at all electrically for what we need. We just need to get electrons flowing from this wire through that plug into this business here. So tip and ring do indeed come in here on T and R. So this part is correct. And then we just have to use this diagram to follow tip and ring through the phone, basically from this end of the diagram to the other end of the diagram, right?
All right.
Ooh. Okay, so that's why you're not getting any audio. Because we only have this there, and this one is definitely not showing up there. So we know that whatever's going on in here likely doesn't even matter yet without like knowing that we have to have tip and ring showing up here.
Got it.
My suspicion is that since this phone is so new, there's some kind of wackadoodle electronic stuff that's going on inside this board. What I need to do now is understand this PCB here.
Okay.
At least enough that I can trace a path through it. I find it pretty unlikely that there's any straight up bad components in here. Like if there were, whatever, we just replace them. But I suspect that there's some math and science happening in there. So the other thing I'm going to do to make my life a little easier is pop this guy out. We don't need him in the way anyway. He's not doing anything for us. That's purely mechanical part. We like to tell visitors what's the #1 job of every phone company?
Make a profit.
Billing, yep. So like 99% of this telephone is dedicated to billing.
Oh yeah. That's the whole...
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
This comes right out of there.
We like that.
Okay, so now we know. There's a million different varieties of these payphones, and because they kept updating them over the years. And believe it or not, I have not been inside all of the varieties of payphones. So this one's new to me. But I'm hoping that we don't have to take this like board sandwich apart. I'm hoping that I can just find 0.1 on this board, but
There is no silk screening under this board,
okay.
but the board beneath it does have silk screening facing us. But none on the inside. So in this board sandwich, there does not appear to be anything that we would visually see on the parts that are stuck together.
So now that we have some power going to this bad boy, I should be able to hear ring. Oh.
Why is it doing on both?
Well, that might be either because it has power or because there's... If this is ring and this is ring, and then I cross this tip to this ring through the meter, that looks like a short circuit to the telephone switch. I'm going to flip these two wires just in case polarity matters. I don't think it does, but some of these circuits might be polarity sensitive, so I'm just going to do the stupid thing first.
I love doing that.
And flip these guys so I don't work on this for hours and then go, oh, oops.
Those are simultaneously the best and worst kind of revelatory moments.
Yeah.
Where you're like, yay, thank God, but then you're like, damn.
All right, yep, there is definitely something going on inside the board. So I think that we don't have an easy shortcut because this test was to eliminate the easy, stupid shortcut of, oh, it just wants power, great, so blah, blah, you know. We know that's a good line, but now we have no choice but to go through this board and actually try to figure out what's going on. Tip and ring have to be continuous all the way through the device, otherwise it's not a phone.
Yeah.
So there's some weirdness going on. Again, like I described to you before, this might just be the wrong diagram for this phone, and then we're kind of just, it's time to start Googling, right?
Right on.
So let's go back to the computer and we'll see if I can plan our next steps.
Okay.
Cool.
Back to the computer, Matron.
I verified by looking with my eyeballs that ring is on pin 11. That's what it's labeled. And it's a black wire. So these are all red wires leaving here, and then it goes off and does a bunch of extra stuff. And then, but pin 11 on J1, it goes through this relay But these are also normally open, so there should not be continuity here, even though I'm seeing continuity. So yes, this is the wrong diagram. Let's look at pin 11 here, also showing a white blue wire. Pin 11 also showing a white blue wire. White blue. White blue. Very much a black wire.
What model of phone is this?
Good question. This might have been a Cocot because it's so new. Usually the model, like the model number is stamped here inside the housing, but I don't see a model number indication here. This is like a non-AT&T made payphone. The closest thing I see, like the closest standard model, oh hey, look at that, is a D1, or sorry, a 1D.
Looks mighty similar.
That looks mighty similar. I mean, it is stamped 984, so
September 1984 is the manufacture date.
for this piece anyway.
The relays had a sticker, I think, referencing 98.
9/29/98 is when they were last tested. Oh shit! Look, they are W. They're Western Electric relays, WE. Okay, good to know. AT&T branded capacitor, Western Electric branded ICs.
It's amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, but it's not clearly this chassis with these wire colors.
But how universal is this component? You said it's possible to just swap it out?
Yeah, it should be.
Could you make the phone go just by putting line signal here?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this, I can't look behind this, but I'm willing to bet that this is the 90% of the phone is this.
Yeah, with the exception of the ringer.
Yeah, and then like this is just for, you know, a lot of computery shit for billing. I wonder if, just as a proof of concept, I could just alligator clip. Sorry, Colin.
Fine.
I could just alligator clip phone sauce to right here, because we've got tip and ring for the handsets. Let's see if I can figure out what this terminal block is real quick. Your dial gizmo also connects to TB2. So here's what I'm going to do again. I'm going to take another little tiny shortcut. I'm going to grab 2 alligator clips, and we're going to hook up to a phone line.
Yeah.
And we're just going to test the one that we know is right, which is 11, and all the other ones.
Sure.
And we'll see if we can identify which 2 things take the phone off hook. Be right back. I'm just going to grab some alligator clips.
Right on.
All right. So, this is something you can do when you're 2 feet from the telephone switch. There. We're off hook, right? Okay. If I carefully place the phone here and take that off hook, I take my alligator clips that I previously just shorted together, and I'm going to connect 1 to
11.
11 exactly. And then I just got to test all of the other ones to see which one appears to be off hook. That one. Okay, so now if I go on hook,
Any others do it or no?
I'm going to check. So look at that light there. If that light goes out, yep, that's it. Off hook, on hook. Off hook, on hook. So the wires that we need to get to are 11 and 6. But even with that being the case, I don't get dial tone, even though we are definitely, absolutely off hook. Oh, there we go. That's something.
Something in your ear holes?
Yeah,
Just scratchy, staticky, clacky?
yeah. What I'm doing here is I'm hooking up directly to the handset, which is these wires here.
Yep.
So this is the cord that comes out the front and goes to here. A phone isn't just a handset. Like this is, the speaker and the microphone and stuff, that's like part of a phone, right? But there's a whole, that network circuit I was talking about before, that network circuit actually provides an audio termination that has the capacitors and the transformers to make those little electrons pass through happily, right, without getting into like the technical details. So if I just plug a handset with nothing else into a telephone line, it might not sound that good, or it might not sound like much at all. So there's a possibility that just plugging the handset into the switch is going to give us a really weak sounding dial tone.
Which is what we experienced there, yeah.
Yeah, so there was dial tone, it was really weak. Is that because there's no network, or is that just because this thing's a piece of crap? We don't know.
Indeed.
And since this is a payphone, not user serviceable. This is the speaker from a telephone. I just took it out. This is what should be in here. Hook it up. Play it into my ear. It's super loud here. So there's also something wrong with this handset. That even if you did get this to go off hook, and even if you did get dial tone, this handset would need to be replaced. So that's another thing we know.
I think this is fast looking like it's a phone that's going to remain a prop. And then if I want a different payphone, I'm either buying a lot of innards to swap out, or it's a project for another day.
Well, not necessarily. We have enough payphone guts lying around that we should be able to take this really pretty housing that you have and actually put together a reasonably decently working payphone.
I'm willing to try. How long will that take?
I don't think it's going to happen today.
Okay.
But like, this is a pretty, a pretty face, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is really nice. A lot of the payphones that we have are they're kind of beaten up, a little junky, but the insides are good, right? So what we can do next week is I can go get a payphone from storage that's just seen better days, take it, swap out the guts, make this pretty thing work, and then you have a working prop.
I love that.
So, what do we know so far? Not a whole lot more.
Right. We know many things that don't work.
Right. So, we have found that, at the very least, this handset has seen better days. It's crap. It needs to be replaced. This thing, I cannot currently find a schematic for it, and it is of the era that it is actually harder to find schematics, mostly because if there was an issue with this device in 1985 or 1990, whenever this was from, right, they would have just
wholesale
huck it in the garbage, drop in a new one, and then they're not gonna be debugging this in the phone booth on the side of the road. So there weren't a whole lot of like schematics in the coin service manual that are going to be helpful as to what's going on inside of this. They have the schematics of this is where the wires go, but not the schematics of these are the values of the capacitors and this is what's on the board and so on. So it's kind of difficult to just like, do we want to do a wholesale disassembly and refurb of this board? Or
Do we want to just drop a new piece in that fits the exact same spot?
Yes. The nice thing about this chassis is it's really pretty, and it's in great shape. And after they came out with this kind of this fortress style phone, they didn't change the insides at all. Like, it's just
everyone I've ever taken apart comes open the same way, has the same.
The
lock
holes are all in
mechanism.
the same place, kind of thing. So I know that we have in storage, like, we've got a bunch of payphones that are ugly and broken and crap that probably have good original parts in them that are otherwise fine. They're just inside a really ugly chassis. So what I'll do is I'll go to storage, I'll bring back a couple of phones, and what we'll do is we'll just rebuild this with original parts that are known working and a lot easier to troubleshoot because they're not this stuff.
Post ShmooCon, post shot show, Payphone Hospital Part 2.
It's going to happen.
Thank you so much for being so wonderful.
I love you very much. Love you, Dave.
Awesome.
See you next time.
And if you haven't been to the Connections Museum, my absolute favorite place in the entire city of Seattle, how have you not heard of them? I'll drop links and things. But yeah, it is the place literally I've taken everyone who's ever visited the city.
Yeah.
It's great.
You got to see it at least once. It's a cool place.
Yeah.
So.
All right. See you soon. Stay safe out there with your payphones. All right, a bit anticlimactic. We didn't get it working, as you saw, but we learned a lot. And that's actually a pretty good lesson, and maybe I'll revisit that in some other talks in the future. We spent, I don't know, not quite an hour tinkering with this phone over at the museum, and while we didn't get it humming yet, we did learn a lot. We learned a lot of things that weren't wrong with it or that might be wrong with it. And that's part of the process. For me, once you've finally figured out what's broken with something, oftentimes the rest is almost not part of the repair of something. Most of the stuff in my life is figuring out what's wrong. I don't have a job like a car mechanic where you're like, hey, it's, clearly firing on, one cylinder is not firing, or, oh, when I turn left, the car goes right. Like, those are kind of obvious problems. You're like, oh, well, shit, the rack must be installed in reverse. I don't know how cars work in the steering box. But most of the problems that we solve as hackers are sort of process of elimination. And please, dear God, I loved that Sarah was illustrating, like, try the dumb, easy shit first. How many of you have been out there trying to fix something, and then you're like, oh man, I should have I didn't have to go to the store 6 times. I could have just plugged the plug in backwards. Though I love that kind of thinking. I love that was on display. So while we don't actually have a problem solved yet, we have eliminated certain problems and discovered different ones. One way or another, yes, the payphone will come back. It'll be part of my phone wall. If you're on Zooms with me or other calls with me or other shit with me, you can give me a ring and I'll pick up and talk to you. But until that day comes, just keep catching me online or on the internet or at Shmoo or something else. I am flying down to Virginia. I'll be at RTA. Emily and I are going to drive up to DC. Tara and I will be at ShmooCon, a whole bunch. All of us will be there. Emily, Kimmy, everyone's going to be at ShmooCon. It's the last one, man. It's the Shmoo de Gras. So many of you in the comments felt bad that you're not coming. That's okay. There'll be something else. Come to KakalakiCon. Come to Wild West Hackin' Fest. Come to small hacker cons. That's where really cool, innovative stuff sometimes happens. Maybe not the finished product, much like my payphone, but learning what's broken in the ways that it could be better. That's what a lot of the research at small cons is like. And even my talk at Shmoo, just today on the internet, I had some really cool conversations and I was like, ooh, this is opening up new avenues of stupidity for me. You're going to see a follow-up if I'm lucky. You're going to see a follow-up from my Shmoo talk. I don't know if it'll be at North Carolina's events or it'll be somewhere else, but, well, I never had plans to have kids, and I've taken scientific steps to make sure that's not possible, but the research I want to do would further eliminate me being fertile. There's going to be some radiation happening if I can hook that shit up. I'll tell you more about it later. Watch my talk. I'll explain it. And in the meantime, yeah, wherever you are, wherever you go, whether you're on a payphone or getting irradiated in your balls, stay safe out there.